Hello everyone and welcome to Fight Night Legends Top 3 Decks. In this series, we're going to follow Fight Night Legends each and every single week. We look at the top performing decks, most popular, as well as decks to watch from the most recent Fight Night Legends. But before we get to the video, take a second to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with all of our Legends of Runeterra content. Check out the links in our description to find our social media pages. We've got a lot of folks working behind the scenes to keep the content flowing and to allow for our weekly Legends of Runeterra tournaments. Now, back to the top 3 decks. Fight Night Legends is a 2-deck no-ban format. This allows players to build a lineup with whatever decks they believe to be the strongest without fear of their best deck getting banned. In this type of format, you may find players who will build a lineup around one of their lists, where the second deck checks the weaknesses of the first, while other players bring a more standard 2-solid deck lineup. For our number 3 deck of the day, we have Swain Lux. While the deck didn't have a dominant performance this fight night, the archetype was seemingly unveiled during the event. Of our 8 invited players, Swain Lux was brought by 2 of them, finishing 4th place in the hands of Yangzera. Swain Lux is a slow control deck that aims to win through outvaluing its opponents. The deck has access to a wide range of Noxian removal spells to deal with small units, as well as fight effects from Demacia spells. While the archetype does not possess many low-cost units, the ones that it does do a good job at fighting for board, while often providing additional value, such as the spells from Mage Seeker Conservator and Vanguard Sergeant, or the additional blocker from House Spider. While this deck does take some time to get going, it possesses a powerful endgame. Its ability to heal for large chunks of health with Radiant Guardian and fight effects can make it difficult for opponents to push for lethal. Lux, once on the board, will be able to extend the removal spells in the deck, allowing her to generate final sparks to further control the board. Lux Lasers and Swain Leviathan provide the late game for this deck. Lux Swain has only recently made its debut, and it'll be interesting to see if the deck will last or if it was just a flash in the pan. Coming in as our number 2 deck for this Fight Night Legends is Shadow Ezreal. A deck only brought by our 3rd place finisher Yangzera, Shadow Ezreal is a largely unexplored build of Ezreal. Before the nerfs, Karma Ezreal undeniably had the most powerful endgame of all the Ezreal builds. Post-nerf, however, Shadow Ezreal throws its hat into the ring. When moving into Shadow Isles, Ezreal gains access to a handful of key cards. First off is Fading Memories, a zero-cost way to trigger Ezreal without costing a card in hand. While oftentimes the unit you get off of Fading Memories will not be useful on board, it can still be rummaged away to keep your hand size up. The Rekindler and the Harrowing is where the endgame lies for this deck. It's not uncommon to set up a late game turn where you can revive 3+ Ezreals, then machine gun down your opponent with Mushroom Clouds, Rummage, and Fading Memories. While Shadow Ezreal is currently far from a popular build of Ezreal, we here at Giant Slayer think that it has some powerful tools in its arsenal. It seemingly does great in Ezreal mirrors while maintaining good matchups across the board. The archetype has been quietly picking up in popularity, so it's very possible that this is not the last we'll see of the archetype. And taking the crown at number 1 for this week, we have Endure Spiders. It was the most played deck this fight night, with 3 out of our 8 players bringing it. It took first place alongside with Twisted Fate Ezreal in the hands of our very own Fight Night Top 3 deck scriptwriter, Szerro. Endure Spiders is a Runeterra classic. It excels at flooding the board with junk, then finishes the game off with a large They Who Endure. Endure Spiders aims to get onto the board on the first turn of the game. Outside of Callista, They Who Endure, and Neverglade Collector, the units in the deck are small and exist mainly to swarm the board so they can attack and block well. With Neverglade Collector on the board, Endure Spiders gains an alternate burnout plan that allows the deck to push damage while chump blocking or chipping out and sending in all of its non-Neverglade Collectors in the battle just to die. The namesake of the deck, They Who Endure, really ties this deck together. If the Endure player was unable to assemble a winning board state earlier in the game, They Who Endure can come down and threaten to immediately end the game with a single attack. It's not uncommon for They Who Endure to reach a stat line between 10-10 and 15-15. If the opponent finds a tool to remove the They Who Endure, Atrocity can be played in response to end the game on the spot. This allows the Endure player to fork its opponent if they can stick the Endure. If they take the hit to the face, the opponent will die, but if they try to remove it, Atrocity has them checkmated. If the game goes to turn 10, an Endure player can play both They Who Endure and Atrocity in the same turn with 3 banked meta, setting up a 1-turn kill. We had an incredibly diverse fight night this week, with 11 out of the 16 decks being unique archetypes. Third place was taken home by Yangzera, who brought Frostbite midrange and Shadow Ezreal. Taking second is Glop, who took Frostbite midrange as well as Karma Ezreal. Glop will be returning next week for Fight Night. And once again, first place, we have our very own scriptwriter Szerro with Ezreal Twisted Fate and Endure Spiders. He will also be returning next week to defend his title as Fight Night champion. With such wide representation this week in the Fight Night meta, it'll be hard to say where the format will go next week. Ezreal, Frostbite, and Swain strategies seem to be among the strongest currently, but there are quite a few strategies lurking behind the scenes. What decks would you bring to Fight Night next week? Let us know in the comment section below if you enjoyed the video, and hit that subscribe button and slam that bell icon to stay up to date with more GiantSlayerTV Fight Night action.